Welcome to Target 60, where we review the playability of computer hardware. Today we are looking at the Nvidia GTX 750 Ti, a card released in 2013 that many feel is still relevant today, but I disagree. Let's find out why. Released in 2013, the Nvidia GTX 750 Ti features 640 CUDA cores with a base clock of 1189 MHz, boosting up to 1268 MHz. It features 2 GB of GDDR5 with 128-bit bus. The card draws a total power of 85 watts, and it requires a 6-pin connector. So let's first look at the two games that we were able to reach a 90% playability score across all quality settings at 1080p, Rocket League and CSGO. On its own, CSGO averaged 226 frames per second across all quality settings at 1080p, but a rather disappointing 50% playability score due to the high deviation of frames while playing the game. Rocket League on the bottom here tells a similar story, with an average frame per second of 172 and a 69% playability score. And we can notice that at the normal quality preset, Rocket League did manage a passing 90% playability score, which can be explained by the 750 Ti reaching the game's internal frame rate limiter of 250 frames per second. So let's look at the games after we've applied some playability analytics. Once we were able to apply selected frame rate targets for CSGO and Rocket League, we reached 97 and 99% playability across all the quality settings, with average frame rates of 173 and 163 respectively. These were the only two games in our 2017 testing pool that were able to reach passing playability scores across all their quality settings. All the other games, Doom, Grand Theft Auto, and Overwatch, a game that is very well optimized mind you, failed to reach the 60 frames per second target across all the quality settings. Doom was a complete failure with the 750 Ti. Even at the lowest quality setting, the card failed to maintain a consistent 60 frames per second, averaging only 58 frames with lows dipping into the mid-40s. Some people may be happy with this, but evaluating this card under the playability definition requires it to maintain a minimum of 60 frames per second. Anything less and you should be playing on a console. GTA 5 fared a little better. While playable frame rates on the lowest or normal quality settings reached a target FPS of 75 frames and a 96% playability score thanks to the low deviation of frames. This is a game that unfortunately requires a graphics card with more than 2 GB of VRAM at 1080p. Out of curiosity, we played this game at 720p on Ultra with normal grass settings, with the 750 Ti to see if it would fare better for users here. And it did, with a suggested frame rate target of about 65 frames per second, with swings on the low side in the high 50s, so it could be playable for some people here. But in 2017, with 1080p the standard resolution, it will be challenging to really enjoy this game with a budget card from 2013. With Overwatch, 3 of the 5 quality presets were able to score above 60 frames per second with the playability scores over 95% after some tweaking. Unfortunately, the Epic and Ultra presets only reached a 45 target FPS level and as a result scored 0% under the playability definition, which again requires a minimum of 60. I know some of you may say that 40 FPS is playable, but in a competitive game like Overwatch you are at a disadvantage playing at such low frame rates and no one would recommend that you do. So as a result, Overwatch only averaged a 58% total playability score on the 750 Ti once we targeted the frame rates. Overall, the 750 Ti did not score well, achieving only a 50% total playability score at 98 frames, far below the 1050 Ti we tested the other week on the same system. Speaking of test systems, these benchmarks were done under ideal conditions, pairing the 750 Ti with a very capable CPU like the Ryzen 1800X. A less capable CPU would reduce these figures further, making general gaming in 2017 difficult. To see just how difficult, I paired the 750 Ti with a Sandy Bridge i3-2120, which features 2 cores and hyperthreading at 3.3 GHz to see the effect of a lower tier CPU on these games when paired with the 750 Ti. And as expected, the playability dropped about 20% in relative terms, or 10% absolutely, with the average target frame rate dropping from 98 to 82 frames. Doom, GTA 5, and Overwatch remain difficult to play, and CSGO and Rocket League saw a significant performance impact, with their average target frame rates dropping from 173 and 163 when paired with the Ryzen 1800X to 139 and 136 across all the quality settings when paired with the i3-2120. Overall, the 750 Ti is not a very playable card. So why does the YouTube community seem to pour over this card even in 2017? I don't really know, but if our testing is to suggest anything, it is that the 750 Ti seems to excel in esport games, particularly ones driven by DirectX 9. Perhaps we can run a future video on this and measure the playability of the 750 Ti relative to the popular esport titles sometime in the future. Until then, the 750 Ti is not a card that we can recommend one purchases for general gaming in 2017. Thank you for watching and subscribe to see more videos like this.